Welcome to This Week in Washington for Friday, October the 28th, 2011. I know that yesterday you received a rather lengthy note from me in preparation for our meeting next week in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Almost everyone on our board will be at attendance, and I hope that you'll have a chance to look at the information in both the email that I sent plus the follow-up links for information from our website on topics we'd like to discuss. As I said in the note yesterday, many of the issues that have been at the forefront of our concerns for the last 2 years, both reauthorization and specialized transportation, should be moving to a climax in the next 6 months. That's why I think it's important that we spend some time looking back and looking at the important elements that we want to make sure are kept in the forefront of the discussion that will shortly be taking place here in Washington. This week saw a rather special series of goodbyes for me, including I had a farewell visit with our friend and colleague Bill Millar from APTA, ending our 15-year effort and close association with him. Bill has been a good friend to our association and a good friend to me, and I will miss him in the days and weeks ahead. Although we did not always agree on everything, we did agree that the fundamental relationships between our association and his were in the best interest of all advocates for public transportation. I hope that our developing relationship with Michael, the new president of APTA, will produce similar results. Time, of course, will tell. In the meantime, I wished him well on the beginning of his new efforts. Earlier this week, I had a chance to sit down for a visit with our longtime friend and supporter, Congressman John Olver of the 1st Congressional District of Massachusetts. The day that I visited with the congressman was the day that he announced that he will be retiring at the end of this term from the Congress. Congressman Olver has been a valued friend and supporter not just of the specific work we've done in Massachusetts, but an always positive support for community and public transportation. The funds that we have received for rural transportation that were beyond the numbers that were requested in Safe T-Lieu for the last several years were the work of Congressman Olver. In addition, as many of you know, when it came to standing up for making sure that states did not move away from the requirements they had to provide transportation under Medicaid, Congressman Olver was always willing to be the voice in Congress to prevent those kinds of changes. We were very lucky to see the goals that he helped us with on expanding medical transportation in the Affordable Care Act being included in that legislation because of his advocacy and leadership in the House of Representatives. We look forward to working with him in the last 12 months of his term to try to complete as much additional work in these areas as we can and to provide a new way of providing service in the 1st Congressional District that we have been providing help with for many years. Beyond that, as we prepare for the meeting, I'm sure that you've probably seen on our various news sources here the continuing discussions of the need to do something about providing more jobs through the transportation program. That legislation that was supposed to be introduced last week has yet to appear, but we do believe that the administration will be putting out a bill to try to make up the gaps in proposed funding for transportation as part of a jobs initiative. We should be able to discuss that when we meet next week. I'm sure you've also heard this week that the Super Committee has been working on trying to make the budget numbers and deficit reduction numbers fit for the promises that were made at the time of the extension of our current debt situation. It appears from at least most of the media information and from people we've talked to in Congress that, not surprisingly, both sides, the Democrats and Republicans, are far apart on a solution. The probability of a new version of the nightmare scenario of having some gigantic automatic cuts kick in is much more probable than it was several weeks ago. The only thing I would say is that those cuts would not be taking place for at least 2 more years, so there would not be any significant or immediate action. Down the road, however, the reductions for defense and non-defense would be excruciatingly difficult on all of the programs that we're interested in, as well as a host of services and operational issues within the Department of Defense. My theory is that this issue will continue to drag on until the election, where ultimately it will have to be resolved. So that's pretty much all I'd like to spend our time with today, other than to close by urging you to take a look at those materials that Scott sent out on the web and urge you to take a look at how they might fit in our discussions next week. There will be, without doubt, an extremely difficult and interesting period ahead. All of the issues that we're concerned with will have to have some form of resolution soon. So I hope that we'll have a good understanding of what those priorities are and where we want to be after we see each other next week. Happy trails, as we like to say at CTAA, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, and have a good weekend. Bye for now.